Brainwashed horse badgers, the pride of the Dwarven army. This is the last remnants of the experimental procedures that have taken place within the confines of a Dwarven laboratory. This Dwarf army would dearly like to take this final unit, this final piece of the puzzle, to their ancestral homeland and replicate that technology on a mass scale. But standing in front of them is a vast army of goblins who would not like that to happen at all. And in fact, they have another objective in mind. They are seeking out the original stable that these brainwashed horses came from, and they intend to raze it to the ground. Just off into the distance behind this battlefield is where the stable is located, so the goblins will be eager to reach that and torch it. That means, of course, that we have the Invade scenario, Dwarves versus Goblins. So, as both sides attempt to reach the opposition's half of the table, let's see what the Dwarfs have brought to the dance.
So, starting on the Dwarf left flank, we have a troop of Berserkers with the Healing Brew. Next to them, a unit of Rangers leading the vanguard. They've got the Fire Oil. Next to them, another Berserker troop, followed by an Organ Gun, who's taking a bit of cover behind that wall. Then we have the Crazy Horse Badgers, which are indeed a Brock regiment. And these guys have got the Brew of Haste. Next to them, a Brock Lord with the Mace of Crushing. And then moving into the centre for the Dwarves, we have a Horde of Earth Elementals. And they've got the Helm of Confidence. And they're backed up by a Banner Bearer with the Banner of the Griffin. We have a Battle Driller hiding behind the cornfield to lend a bit of a hand. And another unit of Rangers. This unit of Rangers has the Piercing Arrow. Standing next to them, an Earth Elemental. And on the right-hand flank, we have another Brock regiment. These guys have got the Caterpillar. And another Lord to support them with the Blade of Slashing.
On the Goblin side, we have quite a gun line. Starting off down here, we have some Fleabag Sniffs, a regiment to be precise. Behind them, there is the first big rock thrower. In front, we have a regiment of Trolls. Moving along, we have more shooting goodness because we have a horde of Spitters with the heart-seeking chant for some piercing goodness. We have Magua and Jews, his faithful servant, supported by a Slasher with a small sharp stick thrower upgrade. Next, we have a Wiz with Scarlet Moor's Fenulian Amulet, so he's going to have some extra tasty lightning bolt action. Next, we have a horde of Trolls. We have a War Trombone. We have a Flaget, and this one has the Diadem of Dragonkind. We have a regiment of Magwans, which are exactly the same as Moorbeasts, except they are not irregular. Next we have the second Flaget, this one with the Holy Hand Grenade represented by that little bird perched on his back. Then we have a regiment of Spitters. We have the second big rock thrower. And then in this corner we have another horde of Trolls, a Mincer, a Wiz with Windblast and the Zephyr Crown, and the final big rock thrower perched in the corner of the table there, ready to unleash death. So as you can see, very spread out forces here, all the way across the table. This is the Invade scenario, so neither side wants to give the other side an easy ride as far as reaching their half. Also, it should be pointed out that because we're practicing for a tournament in which there will be no turn 7s, we're not going to be using turn 7 in this game. The Dwarves have made a couple of vanguard moves. You can see these Rangers have gone up into the forest there, and all the way over on this side, the other Rangers have made their way up onto the hill. And now we're going to have the roll-off with a choice of first or second turn. Here we go. It's a 6 and a 6. Let's do it again. It's a 4 and a 5, so the Dwarves are going to get the choice. You can see here that after deployment, the Goblins have got 45-19 left out of 50 minutes, and the Dwarves have got 45-57. They had slightly fewer units to deploy. Dwarves, when faced with such a gun line, elected to go first, as you would expect, and it's been quite an advance. Look at that, not much distance to the Goblin lines now. All the way down, there was quite a bit of moving forward, all over the place. The Brocks within striking distance of enemy lines, and then there was some shooting dished out from the two Ranger units. The one up on the hill took aim at the Sniffs and did 5 damage, but couldn't waver them, and you'll notice that over here, the Magwans have taken 3 damage, but they weren't wavered either, as a result of shooting from this unit. within striking distance, covered some ground, important for the invade scenario and important to close the distance on all these shooty goblin units. Let's see if the goblins can make them pay. Goblin turn 1. The attempt to make the dwarves pay for their full-on advance. You can see over here that this unit of Brox has been pushed back 3 inches out of charge range of all the juicy targets by this whiz, but he could still be charged by them, should they choose to do that. Down here you can see that the Mincer and the Trolls have just angled themselves a bit, so that should that Brock Lord decide to do any charges, hopefully he would be made to pay a heavy price, we shall see. Over here, there's been a bit of an advance because the Holy Hand Grenade was lobbed at the Battle Driller and did 1 damage. The Mag ones have moved up a bit. All the Rock Throwers missed this turn, by the way, as did the Slashers Sharp Stick Throwers attacks. They all missed. These Trolls decided to go for the charge on the Brock Lord, taking a chance. They did 8 damage, couldn't remove him, so they may get flanked by this unit of Brox that took shooting attacks from everything on this side of the table, taking 12 damage in the process. So they are alive. No rock hits on them. And down here, the shooting attacks from the Fleabag Sniffs did some damage to this little unit of Berserkers here. So, Dwarf turn 2 coming up, and they do have charge options. Which ones are they going to take? There are a few that look tempting and delicious and obvious, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. We shall find out shortly. Partway into Dwarf turn 2, we come to you just before the combat phase. So first things first, you'll see that the Sniffs have been removed. That's as a result of taking more damage from the Rangers' shooting attack. Here you can see that the Brox could not resist the flank of the Trolls, so they've gone in there and they're going to have a tasty snack, they're hoping. And over here there's been some charging as well. You can see that this Brock Lord, who was attacked by the Trolls, has charged into this Flaggit over here. And this Whiz has been charged by this Brock Lord, with these Brox just sitting back a little bit, wary of the juicy hard-hitting units down here. The shooting attacks from this Ranger unit, you can see the little arrow there to see if they could actually take sight of the Mag ones, and they put more damage on them and ultimately wavered them. So, going into combat, we've got quite a few, and the Dwarves will be hoping to do some more killing. End of Dwarf turn 2 and the results of the combat. You can see here the Trolls are dead. They were roasted alive by those genetically engineered and brainwashed horse badgers. Over here, also, the Flaggit was killed by the Brock Lord, and the other Brock Lord killed the Whiz as well, so everything is coming up Dwarf at the moment, so the Goblins need to turn things round in turn 2. There are some vulnerable targets, for example these Brox are heavily damaged. A couple of other units that might be prime for the slaughter as well. We shall see what the Goblins can do. Goblin turn 2, just prior to the combat phase, you can see here that these Trolls have charged the wounded Berserkers. This unit has taken quite a bit of damage from shooting attacks. That was from various lightning bolts down here, and from these spitters as well. These Brox are at death's door after shooting from the War Trombone and the Diadem of Dragonkind, so they should be going away in a moment after I've made the roll. And over here, you can see that this Brock Lord has actually taken 3 damage from these spitters, so they did very well there. These Trolls have decided to charge into the Brock Lord, taking the initiative because they were only going to get charged next turn otherwise, so I might as well go for it. And 1 Rock Thrower did hit, and it did 2 damage to the Elementals. Okay, so both these units are double 1, so just for drama's sake we're going to do those rolls right now. They're not inspired by anything, so let's do this small unit of Berserkers first. So they're gone. And the Brox. This would be a really bad time to get double 1. And nope. So both those units are dead. So to kill the Brock Lord I need to roll 6 twice. Here we go. Nope, so he's okay. And finally the Elementals, I don't think it's worth rolling because they've only taken 2 damage and they can't be wavered. So the results of the Goblin combat phase. You can see that these Berserkers have taken more damage, but couldn't be removed by the Trolls. And swinging all the way down here to the other combat, these Trolls came perilously close to removing this Brock Lord. On the nerve rolls, rolled 10 first of all, but then he inspired himself and then I rolled 9, which was 1 less than required to kill him. So he's just clinging on to life by the skin of his beard. At the end of turn 2, the Goblins have 28 minutes 49 seconds left, and the Dwarves have 27 minutes 51 seconds left. Almost done with Dwarf turn 3, but we're coming to you just before this combat happens, because it could get quite messy and complicated. You'll see Rangers in the flank, Brox in the front. This Brock Lord has run off down here to fight this big rock throw, which we haven't done yet. This Rock Lord charged into the other big rock thrower in the centre and killed that. We've already done that combat. And over here, this Battle Driller has parked himself in front of the Maw Beasts, so preventing them getting into the elementals. And down here, double charge into the Troll Regiment resulted in them being wavered from the Berserkers and the Rangers. So we'll finish off these last couple of combats because this one is about to get messy, I think. Also, the Organ Gun did 4 damage to the War Trombone, but couldn't waver it. So the Brocklord, of course, stomped his way through that big rock thrower, but these trolls, against the odds, they've become only wavered, which means there are some charge possibilities for the Goblins now, with the Mincer poised right there, so we'll see what they can do. The trolls are still at death's door, and they'll probably die next time they're attacked, but it buys the Goblins a little bit of precious time, which could allow this flank, which is going a lot better, to help out. We shall see. Lots of troll wavering going on, and no Dwarven Ale was purchased. So far in Goblin turn 3, we're just about to get into combat, and you'll notice there are some missing dwarf units. So these Rangers were pelted with various shooting attacks, including the Diadem of Dragonkind up there. There were lightning bolts being thrown around the place, and of course the Spitters shooting, so they are toast. You'll notice that this guy is also gone, the Organ Gun. That's because the big rock thrower landed a direct hit, and he also took a lightning bolt, I believe, as well. So he's gone. The War Trombone, sneaking around the back here, shot at the Elementals. Couldn't do that much damage though, so they're alright for now. And over here you'll notice there is a missing Rock Lord as well. That's because he was lightning bolted very successfully by this whiz. He actually did 4 damage out of 5 attempts. So he's gone. The Slasher has turned round to face where the majority of the enemy are now. He's going to be making his way over there to help out in the last couple of turns. And there's been a charge here. With the help of the laser sight, we determined that the Mincer was just in the flank of these Brocks, so that could be pivotal there. Could be very, very bad news for the Dwarves, if that goes to plan. And we're going into the combat phase, so there's this one to do, and we've also got the Magwans charging into the Battle Driller. So, combat phase down here, the Mincer did 8 damage to the Brocks, not enough to worry them yet, and then over in the centre, the Magwans took out the Battle Driller. So, if we get a bit of a wide shot here, you can see that the Dwarves are definitely winning the scenario at the moment, because most of the fighting is taking place just inside the Goblin half. So the Goblins are going to have to address that in the last few turns. And on the clock at the end of turn 3, it's very, very even. Both sides have exactly the same time left, 19 minutes 29. So about 20 minutes left each for 3 turns, which can be done because things have been dying. If you look at the corpse piles here, the units are piling up in there. Partway into Dwarf turn 4, you can see here the Berserkers have countercharged the Trolls. We'll resolve that shortly. Over here, the Elementals have charged into the Magwans. They're probably going to eat them for breakfast. The Rangers shot at the Spitters, so they've taken 4 damage, but they're not even wavered. A double charge here from the Brocklord and the Greater Elemental into the Trolls, and the Mincer has been countercharged by the Brocks. So let's see if any of this stuff can survive and cause a little bit of trouble for the Dwarves, because this other side of the table here is looking very, very Goblin-friendly, but the Dwarves do have more potentially high-scoring units on this side of the table that's going better for them. So we'll see how this combat goes. Oh, in addition to that, this little chap here has charged into the War Trombone with his single attack, hoping to stop it shooting next turn. End of Dwarf turn 4, the Berserkers finished off the Trolls. Over here, in obviously the pivotal combat, the War Trombone survived taking any damage from the Standard Bearer. The Elementals killed the Magwans, and the Trolls and the Mincer both died. So this flank is looking very Dwarf-friendly at the moment, a bit Goblin-free, but there are still quite a few Goblin units left that are capable of dishing out damage. So we'll see if the Goblins can actually kill something and even this back up again, because we're running out of units with white bases now. End of Goblin turn 4. Now you can see that these Berserkers have been removed. That is as a result of the Spitters shooting at them, the Diadem of Dragonkind, which rolled shockingly, unfortunately, which meant that the big rock thrower had to take aim at them as well, just to make sure, and it did hit, luckily, so they were killed. And over here, lightning bolts and the sharp stick thrower on the Slasher all took aim at the Elementals. It did a bit of damage, but couldn't quite remove them. The War Trombone also shot them, so that explains why they're damaged. 1 point of damage was applied to the Rangers as well from the Spitters. So no combat at all in this turn. And we're going into turn 5 now. The Dwarves, it's going to be a close one because the Goblins still have this big untouched horde here, which is going to march unopposed into enemy territory. And hopefully lots of shooting attacks will finish things off in the last couple of turns. The Dwarves will be hoping to just cling on with the units they've got and hold on to that advantage. At the end of turn 4, the Goblins have 14 minutes 17 seconds left and the Dwarves have 13 minutes 12 seconds left. Dwarf turn 5, and you can see that these 3 units potentially scoring have decided to hide in the woods rather than face the shooting onslaught on the other side of the table. Down here the Brocklord is the only one that broke cover to charge these spitters and only wavered them, and the elementals are moving slowly closer towards the goblin lines. Also, the standard bearer did 1 damage to the war trombone with his 1 attack and then just killed it. So the war trombone is dead, and technically he should have been rolling 3 attacks anyway against a war machine.
Oh, yeah.
So war trombone is toast. Goblin turn 5, and this is all about setting up for turn 6. So the slasher charged into the elementals, hoping to take them out in one go, but he didn't have a very good round of attacks and couldn't quite remove them. Over here you can see that the horde of spitters just moving their way up to enemy territory, so in the final turn they can leap in there. And the characters, the individuals, Magua, the Wiz, and the Flaggit have all gone as fast as they can in the direction of these enemy units, so in turn 6 they'll be able to have a go at attacking them. The Rock Thrower didn't have any feasible targets, so it turned round and moved in this direction, so it'll be able to shoot in the next turn, hopefully. And other than that, not much action at all because these guys were wavered. So going into the final dwarf turn. So heading into turn 6, both sides are pretty comfortable with the clock, both got about 10 minutes left, so no chance of timing out at this stage really. Dwarf turn 6, and the slasher paid the price for a below par attack on the elementals, and now he's become wavered, so he's effectively out the game. Wow. And he's not in a scoring position. And, wouldn't you know it, the standard bearer killed the Flaggit with 1 attack. Wow. However, a reverse wow took place down here, because the Brocklord did some more damage to the spitters, but then rolled a double 1. So lots of wowage for differing reasons in this turn, so they're alive, they're going to be able to shoot in turn 6. There's this huge obstacle here blocking the big rock thrower, so that's going to be limited in what it can actually aim at. And then I've got some lightning bolts that are going to be coming from these 2 characters as well, which are now probably going to be needed. There's something going to have to take care of these elementals, so that's unfortunate. Going into the final turn of the game, Goblin turn 6. I need to kill, if we have a quick look at what the scores are going to be, I'm going to have 3 points in the opposing half for this horde when they get there, and the dwarves are currently sitting on 3 for that horde, 2 each for these 2 regiments, so there's 7, 8 for the Greater Earth Elemental. So I'm going to have to kill at least a couple of units. If I manage to kill these guys, that would put them down to 5, and then if I could kill a regiment as well, that would make it a draw. So it's still doable, but this elemental has positioned himself to prevent the Brocks being targeted with the big rock thrower. So that would have been the prime target since they've already taken some damage. We'll see how it goes though, it's still not over. Goblin final turn needed to go very well, needed virtually everything to hit, and the big rock thrower could not hit the elementals. And of course these spitters here could only countercharge the Brocklord, and they couldn't remove him despite doing a point of damage. The lightning bolts, one targeted the elementals and the other targeted these rangers because I needed to kill both units to turn it into a draw. But as you can see, both of them survived because these guys had their self-inspiring item on them, which saved their lives, which wouldn't have actually changed the outcome of the game, but it means that an expensive unit has actually lived rather than died. So, the Goblins score 3 for having a horde in the opponent's half, and the Dwarves score 3 for this horde. They score 4 for the 2 regiments, and 1 for the Greater Earth Elemental, so 8 points. So, the Dwarves will be able to march on, or even though the experimental Brock unit that are actually brainwashed horses is dead, they're going to be able to scoop up some of their DNA and take it to their testing labs, and maybe reproduce it on a mass scale. We shall see. The Goblins are going to have to retreat and come up with a new plan to prevent the Dwarves from dominating the market in their vicious bioengineering department. So let's get the left-handed handshake in there